Attention, everyone. This is an emergency broadcast.
And hello and welcome to the Kaijucast non-emergency broadcast. My name is Kyle, and this is the first time that we've ever gone live on YouTube, at least on the Kaijucast. We've done it on Collect All Monsters, and we've gone live for Kaijucast stuff that's basically for the Facebook group, for the Kaiju Core. But this is the first time that we've ever been on live on YouTube, and I think we're on YouTube, and I think we are on Facebook as well. Fingers crossed everything is working. Just going to go ahead and give a quick shout out to those who are here watching live. Thank you so much for doing so. You're all awesome. I see Andrew Campbell, Mike Campbell, Juglus Juggler, who's his first time here. Mabuse Cast is there, and Luminous as well. I'm sure we'll get more people as we go on, but I didn't want to sit here and talk by myself, so I'd like to bring on my co-host from the Kaijucast. Please welcome to the screen, Mr. Clancy Peterson.
Hey. Hi,
what's
everyone.
up, dude? How's it going, man?
Oh, it's going pretty good. I'm still here. Still home.
Here. Still here, still home. Well, let's get our next Kaijucast co-host up on deck here, and that is Gretchen Brooks. What's up, girl?
What's up? What's up? How's it going, you guys?
It's going pretty good. You know, we're just we're strapping in, I guess I should say, for a big, long discussion about giant monster-related activities and today's current events, I guess I should say. And so these are my three co-hosts. If you're familiar with the Kaijucast, the podcast 100% dedicated to Godzilla and all of his rubber-suited foes, this is like a video version of that, and sort of like a hybrid version of the Kaijucast emergency broadcasts that we would do live, and also sort of like a mix of between what we've been doing with Collect All Monsters and, like I said earlier, things we've been doing with the Kaijucast. Let's just go ahead and very quickly bring in our next guest, all the way from Japan, the editor, head honcho, and head inkslinger of Monster Attack Team magazine. Please welcome Mr. Ed Holland to the non-emergency broadcast. What's up, Ed? Oh no, I don't hear you now.
How do you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you now.
We've had some technical difficulties, but you know, we're on the other side of the world. So
that's
greetings.
Right.
Thank you for having me, Kyle and Clancy and Gretchen and Kaijucast listeners. It's obviously a very, somber time right now, but it's also a very celebratory time. So thanks for having me. And I'm glad to be a part of this.
Well, we're glad to have you here, Ed, and we're going to go ahead and bring in our next guest. Again, if you're familiar with the Kaijucast, you've probably heard this dude's voice. If you're familiar with Collect All Monsters, you definitely know him. Mr. David Dopko from Seattle, my co-host of Collect All Monsters. Welcome to the Kaijucast non-emergency broadcast.
Well, thank you, sir. Thanks, everybody, for having me. It's nice to be in this sort of hybrid Kaijucast, Collect All Monsters sort of thing that we're doing tonight. And Ed, it's always a pleasure. It's a long time no see. Last time I saw you was in Kaiju Sakaba in Japan. So
that's right.
Wonderful to have you here.
It's great to be here.
All right, and we have one final guest. And you guys, if you're familiar with the Kaijucast, you might not know about this dude. He hasn't been on Collect All Monsters either, but he's a friend of ours. David and I know him from back in the day. I'm going to introduce him by saying the 3-time winner of the G-Fest trivia game G-Pardy, Mr. Robert Dwyer.
Hi, hello.
Now,
Robert.
Robert's also, he's a collector and a kaiju aficionado and loves all things giant monsters. And not only that, he has been to G-Fest. And if you can't tell, every single guest on this panel of this show has been to G-Fest. And so we're going to be talking about current events, how they're impacting our lives, how they're impacting our fandom, and how they're going to potentially impact G-Fest in the long run. It's going to be a really interesting show. It's not going to be totally upbeat, but it's not going to be totally down either. And I want to tell everybody up front, we are not here to rake anybody over the coals. We are not here to do that call out culture crap. We're basically here to have a good time, connect with ourselves, connect with our fans and fellow friends, and essentially just kind of like support each other during this time. And I wanted to do that specifically with this live episode. So first up, thank you to all 6 of you, or all 5 of you, for joining me here for this episode. It's really great to have you guys here.
You can thank yourself.
Thank you, Kyle. Yeah.
It's also nice to see some of you guys since we last met in Japan, like you were talking about, Kyle and Clancy and David.
Yeah.
And we were all there under better times, right? During Godzilla Fest.
Totally.
For sure.
Kinder, gentler times for sure. Yeah.
It's kind of nuts. It's kind of nuts because it was November. I mean, it feels like 2 years ago at this point with everything that's been going on, but it really wasn't that long ago.
Right.
It really
And
does.
just like America, it's ebbing and flowing over here too. So there's been some good days and there's been some bad days, and there's been, some recent spikes in activity with COVID and all that in Tokyo. Even where I live down here in Yokosuka, where Godzilla first walked on the shores in the first movie, we've had cases too, and including Americans.
So let me just back up a tick here and make sure that people who are watching right now, if they've stumbled across this episode in the feed of the Kaijucast stuff on YouTube or on Facebook, they know that we're talking specifically about the current events, and that means COVID-19 or the coronavirus and how that's affected us overall. And it's like, I didn't want to actually put that in the description or anything. Like, this is not something I'm trying to get people to watch as a buzzword. We're all being affected by this essentially in some way or another, some of us worse than others. And what we really want to do is just all sort of, like I said earlier, support each other. I'm curious how essentially you guys have been spending the last 2 months, and we'll start, of course, with Clancy here. How's it been going here? And so the top row for everybody watching at home is all Portlanders with me here. So we're all going to have some similar stories, and we've talked about some of this before in the other streams we've done for the Kaiju Core, but I figured we could just give everybody a heads up. Clancy.
Yeah. So yeah, here in Oregon, we're basically doing the shelter in place thing that quite a few states are doing. And so that, I venture out to go grocery shopping and occasionally take walks and stuff, but not my dog.
Not mine either.
Ours is at our mother-in-law.
Yeah. Because I don't have any animals, so if it was, I'd be a little concerned right now.
Dog.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, I mentioned it on the last Kaijucast live broadcast we did, but I've been finding it kind of difficult to really focus on any straight up projects like art projects and whatnot. I've just been playing video games and getting in workouts every day. Now I'm putting in hours of time into Red Dead Redemption 2, delving into the Western world. And, it's not, honestly, if I look at my last 2 weeks, it's been video games, old Star Trek episodes from the original series.
Yes.
Getting in touch with people through social media to kind of keep, some connection with friends. And even my parents, I haven't seen them since we went on lockdown. I just talk to them every day through the phone, but yeah, that's about it.
How about you, Gretchen?
Let's see. Well, we're kind of battening down the hatches for the Portland Horror Film Festival and trying to figure out if it's going to be a digital festival this year. So been watching a lot of films, not always good ones. Yes.
Honesty.
Right. I mean, let's be real. Short films not always the best budgets or acting or sound or video or anything. But some are good. And then on top of that, just been I've had meetups with little groups online, like my dress up group. We all meet up online and have little tea parties, and just started back to work today. That was crazy. Been away for like 6 weeks, and that was kind of cool.
Is that everything's like fine? Like you find going back into work?
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be different because I'm a barista, and like the connection's gonna be really different. Like we'll be just serving one customer at a time, and so that's gonna be really bizarre. But I think people will be really excited to have something that they're used to, like having in their normalcy, and then getting that back.
So, Ed, you talked to us already a little bit about what's been going on in Japan. For the past 2 months, though, have you been on lockdown? I know Japan didn't really instigate that for a while. Like, how's your life been for the past 2 months?
It's been interesting. I mean, I first had pneumonia when all this broke out, and then pneumonia then downgraded to bronchitis, and then I was under, I was under observation and stuff by doctors and things of that nature. And then I got better and I got medicine. And in the meantime, I was still working, and I'm still working now. So I never stopped working, but we went on basically a 50-50 type of schedule and stuff of that nature, because I work as a photojournalist and I work in public affairs, so we're needed. But now things seem to be a little bit different. And in Japan, things are definitely different. I'm not sure exactly in the States since I'm not there, but I hear and read all the reports, and people are dealing with it. We've had, deaths as well. And my godfather in Seattle was in ICU with COVID. He's better now, so I have some experience there. I'm just happy. I'm thankful to be working. I'm thankful to be alive, to have friends, to be talking with you guys. I still stay busy doing reporting, basically, my hobby. But I've been doing some other things too. We talked about Godzilla Fest, and I covered the Gamera event with DNA of Tokusatsu. Been writing for some other sources, and doing some other things in the future if everything calms down with the DNA of Tokusatsu. And I don't want to give it all away, but there is a Arrow Gamera Blu-ray box set coming out when it comes out, and I'm very happy to be a part of that and to be included in that. And then
hold up. Why don't you want to give it away? I spilled the beans and I was like, I did the commentary for Gamera too. Come on, Ed, what did you do?
Well, I guess I'm waiting for the press release. I'm in that mode, so I'm always cautious. It's like, every time I do something, I'm told whether I can release or not. So I'm waiting for that. But I did work with them in providing a special feature. I think I can say that. And I worked on the commentary of Godzilla versus Gamera, Gamera versus Jager, excuse me, not Godzilla.
Oh man, you almost gave credence to like one of the longest running internet rumors.
Yeah, but yeah, well, as far as the internet rumor about Godzilla versus Gamera, that's pretty been nipped in the bud. If that's what you're talking about, we can talk about that offline. But I've been busy, and my family's real supportive. I'm real happy to have a wife and children that are supportive. They're well. They're doing school, distance learning. Dealing with all this, it's unique for the world. Japan has not brought all kids back to school yet, so there's all kinds of intervals there. I don't take the train anymore, so I'm gaining a little bit of weight. I used to do tons of walking, so now I'm trying to integrate walking our stepson, our godson, what do you want to call him, Shiba Inu that we have here in town. And I'm happy that everybody's here, and I've stayed in touch with some of you guys, throughout this, which is really nice. And to have that support from some of these people on this panel, that means a lot to me, because we need each other, and I think we realize that more than ever. And you talked from the top of the show, Kyle, about we're not going to browbeat anybody or whatever. And that's exactly what we don't need, in my opinion. We need to just support each other and take care of each other, because we're all we have. And if you've been through some of this, like, I have with pneumonia and stuff, I still have breathing problems. So I've never in my life had this happen during this time. So it's kind of tough, but I'm very thankful. Thank you for having me on. I hope that illustrates that. I'm going to probably talk too much.
Oh, no, dude, that was perfect. Perfect, man. Thank you. David, I've been in touch with you quite a bit over the past 2 months, but why don't you go ahead and tell the Kaijucast viewers what you've been up to in this last 2 months at least?
Well, sure. Yeah, Kyle and I have had a few online happy hours over the past couple of weeks, which was great. And like Ed said, I've been in touch with him for, since we got back from Japan. Like, we definitely became close after that. And so, as many of you may or may not know, Seattle was one of the first places in the U.S. to get hit with this hard. So we've been sort of sheltering in place for about 2 weeks longer than everybody else in the U.S. So having said that, we've kind of got it down to a science. I'm venturing out probably about once a week, sometimes twice a week, to get groceries, because we can't get any Amazon dates and any Amazon time slots to have any food delivered here. So I just figured I'll be careful and go out and get it myself. As far as keeping busy, I've been, I got the Return of Ultraman box set right when this all began. So I actually had never seen any of those episodes in the original Japanese format before. So I went through the entire series. Oh, there he is. There's Jack right there. So it was fun to go through every single episode in order. And as I mentioned in the Collect All Monsters episode, I've also hadn't had a chance at this point to watch all of the Criterion box set Godzilla films, which I've been doing, and I've sort of put that on hold because now I'm sort of on an Ultra Q kick right now. So I went back and I'm watching all the episodes of Ultra Q right now too. So it's an opportunity to go back and geek out on some of these TV shows. And I've been watching a couple episodes of The Outer Limits, Twilight Zone, and some just really bad 50s B. Actually, I'm going to say Z grade sci-fi films, Attack of Crab Monsters, that kind of thing. So, when you have a little insomnia, it's pretty cool to watch those. Amazon Prime has a lot of those movies if you haven't found them already on there. So that's basically all that I've been doing. Oh, I actually, inspired by a local photographer, I went around 2 weeks ago and I did a photo shoot, a quarantine porch photo shoot of all the neighbors in our townhouse community, which was really fun. And some of my neighbors actually recommended that I do this, and they were going to pay me, but I just said, why don't you just donate to your favorite charity that's in Seattle that's in need right now? So that was something that I felt, a little tiny something that I felt that I could do to help out the community and to get our spirits up. So as everyone has said so far, we all need to lean on each other and, just chat and talk and just continue to support one another through this whole thing, because it's not going to end anytime soon. I mean, it is getting better slowly. And that's about it for me. How about you, Robert?
Of course, I know Kyle and you know that I actually separated from my previous employer in January. So believe it or not, I've actually been home since then. I have a funny story though, is of course before, the shit hit the fan, so to speak, I was actually in Las Vegas on a trip, but of course that got cut short after 1 day. So the 1 day trip to Las Vegas, they shut everything down that day because I hadn't really been keeping up on the news, so I wasn't really aware of the situation. And then suddenly they're like, "Oh yeah, we're closing every casino, every hotel." It's like, so exactly 1 day after getting to Las Vegas, the very next day I had to go home.
Oh man,
which was definitely, that was something. And of course, it took 6 weeks to get a refund from the hotel for that.
Whoa.
Wow.
Well, because you book through Travelocity, they're like, well, you have to get it from the hotel. I go, but the hotel's closed. And when you call them, they say they're not doing anything. So you had to, but eventually that did get taken care of. But for the most part, again, I've already been home for a while, so not a whole lot has changed. The big difference, though, is, of course, I actually want to go back to work, but it's kind of hard because, not very many people are doing interviews. There's no job fairs. Now, mind you, I'd actually been prepared to be out of work for a long time, so it's not like I'm starving or hurting. But I admit I'm kind of bored now. It's hard to believe, but now, mind you, again, I've been, at home since January, but now, mind you, I've been doing some home projects, especially outside where I don't get to do a whole lot of yard project. I've been doing that. Like David, I also have been, catching up with the Blu-ray of Return of Ultraman, and the Godzilla show collection. I still have to watch. I've got what is it? It's Ultraman or Origins or something to that, or G Origin, something to that effect.
Now, have you seen Ultraman Orb?
I have, yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure you see that before you see the sequel.
Yeah,
That's the sequel stuff.
Yeah, I actually watched that on Crunchyroll, actually, which has a number of the Ultra series. Generally, things are fine here. Everyone's healthy, of course. Again, I haven't really been out, so it's not like I've been exposed a whole lot. The only thing you really go out, groceries. I don't really need anything other than that. I called it the blessing because anyone who doesn't know me, I used to work for GameStop, so I worked with the public, and I got out of there just in time. I mean, I don't have to, because there was a whole bunch of nonsense going on about how they had to deal, about them trying to get around the
essential thing. Yeah, totally.
And honest to God, I'm like so happy to not have had to deal with the public during this crisis and all that. I'm like, I get to just, relax at home, more or less, and I'm kind of okay with that. But I am a bit bored. I kind of want to get to doing something eventually. Not that I don't mind being off. I was generally overworked when I was working, so it's kind of nice.
So you're taking a nice little break. You're taking a nice little break.
Yeah,
it might just be pandemic extended.
More or less. It's for the moment, not much has changed. I'm getting unemployment, so granted, everyone in the house is out of work too because of furlough. I just happen to have been out of work before, but again, at my age, I have savings. I have few needs. I'm not starving, so. It's good. I'm healthy, and that's the important part.
That is the important part. That everybody stays healthy. It sounds like everybody in the group is healthy. I too, obviously, am healthy. I am. I've been privileged enough to stay home and work from home for the past 2 months. It has given me quite a lot of extra time to do my own projects, which is why there's been a lot of video content being produced for the Kaijucast and Collect All Monsters reasons. And more coming down the highway as well. Let's just check in again with the chat as well. Mike Cherkowski, I saw him. Mike Keller, I think I already said Mike Keller again. Corey Cromer's here. Larry Latham. Michael Deek, what's up? Jamie Davies is here. Connor Miles is watching. Louie, what's up, Louie?
Louie. She's been making
let's see.
A ton of masks, man.
Oh yeah, she has. Daniel Hopner is here. Hope I said your name right. And Ken Hall. Hello, Ken. What's up, dude? John Parkinson. I saw earlier. Where is he? Ed Escobar is there. Frank. Welcome. James Thompson. Clancy, you got to give a shout out to James Thompson real quick.
Oh, Canada James.
Canada James and Jessica Etchels are watching. Vince, Jordan.
Nice.
Andrew, what's up, brother? Oh, man. Oh, we got a lot of people watching. I'm pretty psyched about this. Okay, so thank you guys all for watching. Thank you guys all for telling us about how you've been taking this last 2 months in stride. Basically, today's episode is a timestamp in a sense, and this discussion exists sort of as a point in time that people could refer to how we are dealing with the pandemic in a sense. In America, at least, I'd say there's, and I don't want to get political with this, but I basically want to say there's a lot of people out there in America that are not taking this very seriously. And I'm really hoping that someday these people wise up and figure out, like, hey, this is not just all about you. This is about everybody else as well. People are taking, doing things like Gretchen mentioned Louis, one of our listeners / viewers / friends who's making masks. We have some other friends who make masks. Rachel from the Kaijucast made a mask for me, and I think a mask for Gretchen and some other people.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it's like the only person that I've seen of my friends, but we socially distanced in the parking lot at her work, but I had to go pick up my mask, and it was a bummer that we couldn't hug, but just getting that, she was working, so we could only talk for about 20 minutes, but it was just insane how good that felt to actually be able to see someone in person, because this stuff is great, and I think we need to keep doing it, but that human contact, you don't really realize. I mean, this is really showing how important that is and how much we should appreciate it.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, it's anyway.
Things have gotten kind of serious here too. I just thought a note that just popped up. We're talking about how it is here. The governor of Kanagawa Prefecture, which is Tokyo and everywhere else, in the vicinity where all of you guys come when you come to Japan usually, has put a note out, don't come to Kanagawa Prefecture. So, every little governor, every little state, every little prefecture has a different way of doing things. You see things in the news, and then you actually know, if you're there, what's going on. You probably saw that there's a reflash in Hokkaido, and the numbers are going up a little bit in Tokyo. But, you guys all mentioned something, and I think it's interesting to note here, is that we've all kind of learned a virtue. We always talk about patience, and we talk about being kind, but we're all doing it now, and we're all getting better at it. And it's hard to practice gaman, as they say in Japanese, but if you don't, then you're going to get rolled over by all this, And I think it's amazing that all of you in your own way have been able to, and of course your listeners and the people that are doing this stuff, have been able to perfect something that's so hard to do. Patience is so difficult. If you ever worked in customer service or news or whatever, that people just freak out. And some of that's happening here too. I saw some in the news last night in Japan where some stores have closed and some have stayed open. So they haven't told the restaurants that you can close or stay open kind of thing. And some people are writing nasty notes in Japanese on the stores that have not closed. And then some of the stores that have actually closed, they're writing nasty notes even though they close. So, some people get with it. Some people don't get with it. And I think the people who don't get with it will be rolled over in one degree or another. And that's the timestamp I think that we're looking at here too, because in the mental health aspect, excuse me, I don't want to get political either, there will be the time before COVID and the time after COVID and the timeline of how we deal with things as we go forward.
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. The same thing is happening in the States, Ed. I'm sure you've been seeing it, that, it depends on the state. Each governor is making their own decisions because we can't really rely on what's happening from Washington. I mean, that's about as political as I'm going to get. So the states are sort of relying on themselves to do the right thing. And I'm very grateful that I live in a state that's forward thinking and we are doing the right thing. We were supposed to come out of quarantine on the 4th of May, but our governor, Jay Inslee, just extended it. And I actually don't even know the exact date. It was kind of cryptic, but definitely not the 4th of May. So everything is still the same as it's been. And I think, for the most part, Seattle gets it. I'm not talking about Washington State. I'm talking about Seattle, King County. And again, I'm very fortunate to be living in a state that is, for all intents and purposes, doing the right thing. And there's more stories of kindness and generosity than not. Maybe I'm just ignoring the other stories, but
that's what needs to make the news.
Yeah, it does need to make the news, and it is making the news. Which is very interesting too, because usually it's all gloom and doom. And getting back to the masks, you guys were talking about masks. I actually shaved my big beautiful beard because the mask wouldn't fit on there. So I basically got a goatee. It's grown in a little bit now. So, but that's definitely a casualty of this pandemic is my big beard that took me so long to grow. I know, in the scheme of things, whatever, but you know, and it will come back. It is coming back, but I just could not fit a mask on over that beard.
But isn't half the fun growing the beard? I mean,
yeah,
now you get to grow it.
I'd say half the fun. I mean, most of the fun is having it and loving it and being like, I'm looking at Kyle and all of his glory right there, and I'm like, you know, I pale in comparison these days, but it will be
I can't grow any. I can't grow any.
I just trimmed mine too. Like it was like, in fact, on one of our previous Collect All Monsters episodes, somebody said, "Oh, the boys are looking scruffy," and I was like, "I've been wanting to trim my beard for so long." That was the catalyst. That's what did it.
That scruffy comment. I don't know where that came from.
I remember.
Can't believe someone actually said that. Jeez.
Someone said that. I want to find out who said that. I'm gonna let them have it.
That's not scruffy. That's style.
I'll give you some scruff.
Yeah, I think we were using the term nerf herder in the comments and stuff like that.
Oh,
anyway, there is one aspect, one positive thing from from this whole COVID situation that I'd like to shine a little spotlight on. And Ed, of course, knows what I'm talking about. I am specifically referring to Kaiju Defeat COVID, Shinji Higuchi's hashtag project. And so, Ed, if you would be so kind right now, would you do me a favor and just tell us a little bit about the project itself? How did it come about?
Well, I believe, you know, the friends of Shinji Higuchi, director, is also a friend of mine, got together and decided how can they, you know, get through this situation, because most of them are in the Tokyo area, and the Tokyo area is pretty much on lockdown depending on where you go. I mean, to see scenes of, you know, the crossing in Shibuya and stuff like that with nobody there, it's just bizarre.
It's crazy.
So they got together and put a YouTube channel together and started asking people to post their own videos and make their short videos anywhere under a minute together and put those out in an effort to kind of just make people laugh, I believe, and also to come together. You know, I'm not working in the production side like they are, but I'm contributing to it with Monster Attack Team and our Facebook page, which, you know, is seen around the world. And these people, Higuchi-san and special effects director Katsuro Onoe and some others, you know, put a lot of prominent people in there and asked them to send smartphone videos. And the smartphone videos, basically, you know, not only does it highlight people that are doing participation in this, it brings people together in a creative way and in a funny way. And so if you go onto the Monster Attack Team Facebook page and you look under the events and stuff and you see those things we're sharing from YouTube, there's some descriptions on how to do it. So there's some translations out there of what they're asking to do. And we've started contributing to it as well. Kyle posted one, which was great. Great idea. Kyle did the Jet Jaguar Medical from Godzilla Island, you know, doing his thing. But let me back up and explain a little bit more about it. The effort of this, and I'll kind of read from my notes if you don't mind, is you catch a monster. So imagine someone's throwing a monster, a kaiju or a superhero or whatever at you. You catch it from the screen and you hold it tight and you act like it's yours. And then you could do a couple things. You can share it with your collection of monsters or kaiju. And after you catch it from the air, basically you grab it and, like I said, hold it, or you combine it with whatever you have laying around. So some people have done some interesting things. I still haven't done mine yet, so I'm working on it. But I saw one creative thing. A person actually didn't have GIRAS, but he wanted GIRAS to be a part of the whole project. So he illustrated GIRAS on paper and then threw the drawing up at the camera for the next person to catch the drawing of GIRAS and then contribute and then put the project together. So the hashtag for the whole thing is Kaiju Defeat COVID. and Capsule Kaiju, and that's in Japanese. So when you're doing this, if you decide to contribute or put it on a smartphone file and load it to your Facebook page or your Twitter or your Instagram, that's kind of how you do it. And a little bit more about it is after you join the monsters, you stick out your favorite monster, robot, hero towards the camera for the next person. And when you do it, you say something in Japanese. I forgot what you said on yours, Kyle, but I got a contact from Matt Frank, who's also part of it. And he asked me, how do you say this in Japanese? And he took his monster and Iko, Iku, like go. And so the whole idea, I guess, is they're going to put it together in some kind of format when it's all done. I'm not sure if they're going to contribute all of the ones that are in English, but I've seen people get real creative and start putting Japanese subtitles in their Defeat Kaiju COVID little smartphone videos. And then at some point they're going to share it and do something with regards to that. And we are always also doing it. We've had a few contributions. Mike Keller, shouting out to Mike Keller, former editor of Monster Tag Team Magazine out there. He did one with, even had his monitor lizard, I think, in the video at one point. So, you can put whatever you want into it. And, you don't have to show your toy collection. You can do whatever you want. Some people have done advertising characters or something creative or put that up to the screen. People have been shot videos like hanging out in their bathtub and taking monsters out, and it's just so bizarre. And then I believe Higuchi-san's team and possibly himself directly added graphics and sound effects to each little one and then put them together.
Yeah, so actually, Ed, if you want, I have that loaded up right now. We can watch
show
a
that
little bit of it right now. All right. So here we go. I think I shared the audio.
Yeah, this is great.
I'm totally doing this.
And so this is Higuchi-san talking about how to do it, and it's all subtitled in English.
Do we have an actual example of someone's something that someone submitted?
I know this out there. We have it on the Facebook page.
Okay.
I'm not sure if there's an example in that file. I think that's just the ground rules.
Well, actually, I do have mine, and I do have Matt Frank's. So which one do you guys want to see first? All right, mine. Is that what you said?
Let's see yours, please.
Okay. Here, done.
And just to let it prequel, this will be added to the files.
Whoa! Oh, buddy, it's a little kaiju, and he's all done with his battle with coronavirus. I gotta find someone to pick up the torch and carry on this battle. But who could it be? Who will fight the fight? Oh, yes! Why didn't I think of it before? Medical Jetsu Jaguar! Punch! 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 Ikimashou!
There you go.
That's excellent.
Awesome.
And his mama still no love him.
I'm so doing that. That's so awesome.
So
there's also a red version of that figure too.
I know, so I at first I had both of them in my hand, but then I was like, well, hang on, I'm just going to do the medical one. I don't, because the other one's fire, right, or something like that.
Mm-hmm. What's so nice about what you just did? I mean, and we're not realizing what we're doing, but when we're taking a kaiju figure and adding it to this Defeat COVID project, we're not only incorporating something of our own and from our heart and from our collection. We're incorporating whoever made that figure, whoever made that movie. And so when I saw your Jet Jaguar Medical, the first thing I thought about was Koichi Kawakita, who I interviewed a few times. And I just thought about, Godzilla Island, which has come up, over the last couple of years. And they did all the video releases and everything. And it's so nice. So, I still don't know what I'm going to choose. I have tons of stuff, but, I can't put Barramon's car up to the screen because I'll probably break the camera. But
I think you can do whatever you want. I'm pretty sure that's what I was getting from watching the videos online. I just want to say real quick, if anybody's interested in seeing some of these themselves and seeing what people are submitting, my suggestion would be going to Twitter or going to Instagram and even YouTube as well, and searching for that hashtag, which again is hashtag Kaiju Defeat COVID.
And then the Japanese one,
in all caps. Yeah,
yes.
If you find mine or Matt Frank's or any of the other people who've done it in English, you can also find those hashtags as well. So
And if you want to act on it now before Sunday night, we are
Right.
submitting Kyle's and a few of the other people who've done it through our Facebook page. And then we're going to send those to Director Higuchi, and hopefully they'll be added to the project. So we also have a friend who's part of the project. You might know him, might be your friend online. His name's Yoko Higuchi, not related to Higuchi, but he was an intern, basically a PA, production assistant on Shin Gojira. And he's working to help us put the, including Kyle's, a brief Japanese translation on it. And then we're going to send all those files to Higuchi next week, and then hopefully contribute as our, little bit to assist with this project, which is very important. And I know it's important to Higuchi-san and other people who did it. And I can't wait till it's all over. So who knows? We can maybe watch this on a big screen sometime in the future somewhere together.
Yeah, and it's not just fans that are doing this. I mean, let's just say they're all fans doing it, but you're getting stuff from like actors. So like I saw one from Yuriko Hishimi, from Ultra 7, and another one from Hiroko Sakurai. And let's see, who else did I see in there? Oh man, I think his name's Hiroyuki Watanabe, the guy who plays generals in a bunch of the Millennium series stuff.
And he's really dressed up.
His was one of my favorites, to be perfectly honest. Yeah. Anyway,
it's a great project.
Yeah. So if you want to get involved with this, listeners, viewers, etc., if you'd like to get involved, all you really do, like Ed said, is you grab your cell phone, you figure out which figure in your collection or whatever it is that you want to, shoot. And then basically you just hold your cell phone up, shoot the video in self-portrait mode. And then once you finish with that video, you send that off using that hashtag Kaiju Defeat COVID. Bam. And once that's added to the tweet stream or the Facebook or,
or
the social networks, it'll be picked up by anybody searching for that hashtag. Just make sure you do that hashtag and it'll be part of those search results. And you can join in the fun like that. I had a ton of fun doing mine. I can't wait to see more of these when they come out.
It's
and
awesome.
you can do multiple ones. So, it's like if you want, you do whatever you like if you have the time on your hands. I know.
I almost did Pigmon because his buddy Garrick Hugh kind of looks like the coronavirus.
Oh, he does. Oh, my God. You know what? The wheels are turning. I'm so going to do this. I'm going to do it tomorrow morning.
Oh,
excellent.
Thanks.
I can't wait.
Excellent.
And so should all of you.
Wait, Ed, do that one more time.
And so should all of you.
See, perfect. Using that solo layout, really giving the punch to the guests. I like it.
Well, there's that project going on. There's so many other things happening too. I mean, there's some things I would like to talk about in this forum. We have to wait till they come to fruition, but the DNA of Tokusatsu is doing stuff in the future, and when hopefully this thing dies down, then maybe we can see more of these things. There was some talk of bringing some of that to the United States. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. Somebody mentioned earlier that they had to cancel something to get their money back. I think it was you, Robert, going to Vegas. Mm-hmm. So like this month, I was getting ready to go see Iron Maiden Japan, but I can't go. So
that sucks. That sucks.
We're all being affected by it. Everybody's purse strings are getting tighter. But there's ways to support this, and goodness out of his heart, David said he contributed something and did that on volunteer. I mean, how about you hear the word pro bono? It means for free or lesser fee. How about pro kaijus? You can make a new term there.
I like it.
All right. So I think what we should probably do is we should probably use this opportunity to take a little break. No, I'm sorry. That's not right. We're going to move on to our next topic. The break comes afterwards. Our next topic is actually how this coronavirus has been affecting things in the fandom, specifically collecting. And David, I wanted to turn to you as a member of the Collect All Monsters team and ask you, if you've been affected by this coronavirus, because I know the answer is yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've said this, and this is kind of a blanket statement, and I think that this pandemic, the situation, is going to forever change the landscape of Japanese kaiju toy collecting in one way or another. Maybe a lot and maybe a little, but definitely it's going to happen on some level. And I think we're all starting to feel a little bit of it. I mean, most people that I've spoken to, one of the things that we all have in common, we ordered the Yuji Sakai X Plus 84 standard Godzilla from various places in Japan, and they started to ship during this pandemic, and it seems like many of them, including mine, are stuck in the post office in Japan, in Tokyo, Asakusa to be exact, and there's no way of knowing when they're going to be. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, you'll end up in my collection someday, buddy. I'm not sure when, but when Ed mentioned patience, it's definitely an exercise in patience. And as many of you know, I'm not exactly the most patient guy in the world, but I've definitely reached deep down and really come to terms with my inner patience, because in the scheme of things, it's not that big a deal that I don't have my Yuji Sakai 84 standard in my collection. It'll get here when it gets here, but I think that's just the tip of the iceberg for so many other stories that I hear from collectors where they're not sure what's happening with their pre-orders, whether they're going to get canceled, whether they're going to just kind of roll with the punches and actually eventually get to the areas that they need to be. It's just very confusing. And as far as the shipping goes, Kyle, we talked a little bit about this. I think, from what I understand, as of today, the only way that you can get an item shipped from Japan is DHL. Because and I think UPS as well, but I'm not even sure about that. But
I think I saw somebody say FedEx.
Oh yeah, maybe FedEx too. But these options that we just talked about are going to be a little bit more money, or a lot more money than we've been used to. Now, you actually, Kyle, you just had a box day today from Japan. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, if you don't mind?
Sure. So basically, our mutual friend Corey, who was watching earlier, Corey Cromer from Seattle, he offered to help me get the new Gamera 1999 figure from X Plus, the Rick exclusive version. Nice. And so I took him up on that last year. I was like, hey, cool, sweet. And, same as we normally do with other friends of ours all the time. And then, of course, wham, bam, coronavirus thanks in March. And so in April, when it's supposed to ship, the first question I had, and actually to back up a little bit, I had been sort of monitoring the corona situation coming from China earlier, because China had issues just before the coronavirus when Hong Kong was going through all those riots.
Right.
And so our mutual friend G Okamoto from X Plus was on his way to China at one time, and I remember messaging him and just being like, please be careful, I would hate for anything to happen to you while you're over there. And then almost immediately following that sort of somewhat quelling, the coronavirus breaks out. And then that had an impact on production, right? Because a lot of production stuff happens in China.
That's correct.
Even at the company I work for, we were experiencing issues where stuff that we were supposed to get was like weeks and weeks late, because basically all the companies were shut down. Rightfully so, of course. But
I got a question for you. I wonder if, with all the companies like coming back to America and companies coming back to Japan, because a lot of the things that you guys probably read about it, a lot of things that happen in America, Japan kind of patterns themselves with the way they handle things. The stimulus checks that are going out to people in America, they're doing that out in Japan. I wonder if some of these companies will come back to Japan and the prices just will go a little bit higher, and you might get a little bit more, a little bit better product. Because how can some of these companies, I wonder, continue with all this stuff going down? I wonder about that a lot.
Capitalism, right? It's going to be interesting.
A byproduct of this pandemic too is, I'm sure a lot of us are worried about these small independent toy companies staying afloat too. So we still should do our best to sort of support them and spread the word that eventually we will be getting these items. Not sure when or where, but it's just a crazy time to be a Japanese toy collector. I mean, I haven't had a box day in probably a month and a half, maybe, and that's kind of unusual. I just had one today, but it was from someone in the U.S. Actually, Del Champagne Martinez sent me the monochrome Ultra Q box set, which is pretty awesome. And it was just so nice to receive a box. You know,
if you send stuff from Japan, if you were living in Japan or you have a friend, which you guys have friends in Japan, sending you stuff, when you go to the post office, not DHL or FedEx, but when you go to the post office, Japanese post office, they make you fill out a form about this big. And it basically says we can't guarantee when or if your package will be received by the United States and or other countries. So as a courtesy, they're apologizing, but they're also memorializing it by making you sign or check a box that you're okay with that.
Yeah, that's very disconcerting, Ed.
Which is, yes, it is, but that's what's been happening. And so I have a couple of things I've sent people as gifts, and I don't know when or if they will get there.
Yeah. Do you guys know why that's happening? So the reason these things can't get shipped EMS, which is one of the shipping methods that we as collectors are used to using from Japan, is because EMS has a deal with airlines to basically put their packages on corresponding flights, passenger flights, heading out into the world, to America in our case. And so with all of the airline industry tanking right now because nobody's flying, that means there's so many less flights to actually put these packages on. Right. So people like David, who had their package ready to go, and was it Hobby Search? Hobby Search was like, here you go, take the package away. Then that thing just goes from them and sits in a warehouse waiting to be put onto a plane with thousands and thousands of other packages that are bottlenecked in Tokyo right now, and I'm sure in other cities as well. But that's essentially the issue, is why we're having this trouble getting stuff from Japan right now. And I think eventually it's going to sort of level out, but until the airline industry picks back up, it's not going to level out for a while.
And they are canceling flights within Japan. So if you want to travel from Tokyo to like Hokkaido or whatever, your flight might get canceled as of recent weeks. So people are having flights that are canceled just to go see family.
What I'm wondering, and I'm sure a lot of the viewers are wondering, so it's in limbo in the warehouse of the post office right now. Will it eventually be shipped back to, for example, Hobby Search, so they in turn can find an alternate method to ship it to the United States if we want that? Because I think that my fondest wish is that every single collector who's paid for their item and paid for their shipping and are in this limbo, they need to get their stuff. All bets are off with the pre-orders. We don't know what's going to happen with that. But those who have shelled out the money, they paid for their item and they paid for their shipping, I'm wondering and I'm hoping that they will eventually find their way back to the sender if this goes on, and then the sender can contact us to arrange an alternate way to ship it to us. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. From a logistical point of view, though, if these things are literally all sitting in a warehouse or a pallet waiting to get put onto a plane, that probably means they've already been pre-sorted for that destination somehow. It's just, it really depends on where that box sits within the system.
Yeah.
I think the last thing you said, David, was yours was in Asakusa, which is in a district of Tokyo.
That's correct.
It's not like at the airport or anything. So maybe there's a chance it gets returned.
As far as I know, well, the warehouse might be another story if it's waiting to get onto a plane or get loaded onto a plane that's not leaving. If it's still at the post office, I don't know. Nobody really knows, and that's the thing that's the most upsetting thing. But my advice to everybody is just be patient. Don't get stressed out, and we just may have to pre-order things. Like many of us have pre-ordered the gigantic Mechagodzilla from X Plus. Now, we don't know what's going to happen with those. Are they going to be delayed? Is the production delayed? But I'm confident that we will be able to pre-order, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. The only silver lining I'd give you there is that Gamera figure was scheduled. The one that I just got today was scheduled for April delivery, and we are currently today is May 1st, and as we mostly know, the X Plus figures get released at the ends of the month, and sometimes it takes a week to get to the customers in the States. So
yours is right on time.
Mine was right on time.
Right on time. That's great. You're lucky, and I'm happy, and I'm hoping that other collectors are finding that same thing. But there are many who are not, and it's also an interesting time too. Now, I'm wondering if this is going to be a time where you're going to see collectors selling things because people are really going to be jonesing to have box days like myself. So, what do you guys think? What do you think, Robert? Do you think people are going to start selling part of their collection to sort of fill that void of people getting box days?
Well, if people are selling, I think it'll be because they don't have money.
Oh, there's that too. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think short term that I think there might be an uptick to some degree.
I think there's been a bit of an uptick in Yahoo Auctions. I don't bid or buy things there, but I kind of watch it, and I've seen a few things come up and like, that's interesting. So like, it looks like slightly some stuff is coming, but that's usually.
Oh, should I be? I should be paying more attention to Yahoo Japan auctions right now. You're saying,
yeah.
But getting it from Japan though might be tough.
Exactly what he just said about that little box that gets checked off. I don't know if I'm going to be doing that in the near future. That's not very encouraging. Not at all. Not at all.
I tried to set up that Yahoo auction for myself. Man, that's a daunting task. It just was like on and on just to get it going, even within the country. So, I don't know. A lot of people in Japan use what they call Mercari, which is kind of like a lower end.
Yeah, Mercari is what it's known here in the States.
Yeah. And so you guys are doing that in the States too?
Yeah, it's like a global thing. But
okay.
I've seen them in Japan too.
Quite a bit. And then you pay for the price of the item plus the shipping. Then if it's small, if it's not big, you can take it to the convenience store and they'll ship it up for you there.
Yeah. See, so for me in ordering stuff from Japan, the thing that I would just tell people in terms of advice, at least for right now, and this is dependent as well, so I'm gonna talk about that in a second. But basically, I would say if you're gonna buy something, try and buy something from somebody that will ship via DHL, because right now SAL and EMS are not really options. And so, now the flip side of that is that DHL might be a great option for me. I live on the West Coast, and when I'd order, so seriously, if I place an order from Mandarake from their Sara warehouse, where basically they know how much the shipping cost is, they know the product is there, so you can click buy it, and for that particular order, because it's coming from that particular warehouse where their inventory is live and weighted, it knows how much the price is, and you just pay that much, and boom, if I say ship it DHL, and I do it right now, which is what time over there, Ed, right now, like 10:30?
Right 11? Now is almost 11.
Almost 11 a.m. So if Mandarake gets that order out today or tomorrow, I'm actually going to have that through DHL in a couple of days after they ship it. It's really fast to Portland, Oregon. I cannot say the same thing.
It's also fast to California if you're buying stuff from Japan. I don't know what it's like for you guys in Oregon and on the West Coast, but when I was living in California the last time, my only downside with DHL is sometimes it was hard to get the guy if you weren't there at the house when he came. But I don't know how that works. So then you're dealing with that. But
luckily, I'm at the house.
Yeah, you're not going anywhere.
So Kyle, is DHL comparable price wise to EMS or what? I used
so it was a little more expensive.
Not much, right?
Yeah, I think Corey, if he's still there, can correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was like $52, $53 to ship it from Japan to here. That's maybe $10 more, if that, than it would be to ship via EMS.
And if you're wanting to get CDs and Blu-rays and DVDs, DHL is always an option. That's good to help you get through this time to watch movies and listen to music. Toys a little different, but there are so many options for mailing in Japan and stuff, but there's not as many people working. So the hours are different at the post office, the hours are different at the warehouse, and nobody has really universally figured out how to fix all this yet. So we had to be patient, unfortunately.
So bottom line, everybody listening, it is possible. DHL is the way to go, and West Coast is probably going to be really fast. What Ed said is very telling too about, you know, having a friend ship you something from their local post office, because that box really makes me nervous. I mean, it's like, okay, maybe you'll get it, maybe you won't, no big deal, or big deal, but we don't take responsibility. So that's a little scary. So DHL, if you have the option to order something now, that's probably your best bet. That's a big takeaway from this discussion.
Interesting.
We are in Golden Week right now. So Golden Week typically is a time when everybody takes a break and does things, goes to restaurants with the family. But really, Golden Week has kind of tanked. If you look at the live feeds of the highways and stuff, super highways, there's hardly any cars there compared to last year. So that could change. And you guys talked about your emergency situations for your towns and stuff like that. They just extended it for Kanagawa to June 6th. So they just a couple days ago extended it for another month. But some stores are opening up. So a lot of stores are closed, but then some are kind of opening up because never really went full lockdown in Japan.
Yeah.
As of today, in fact. So you don't get fined if you're out walking around in town, walking your dog, and you don't have a mask on or something like you do in states and counties back in the States.
Only some counties, though. That definitely does not happen here in Oregon.
It doesn't happen in Seattle either.
I wish I could arrest people that weren't wearing masks when I was out in the world. I'm like, get a mask on your face.
I think it's more of a...
Most people are doing the right thing. The majority of people are actually doing the right thing, and that's good to see. And I always think that when people say dates, okay, we're going to reopen on the 15th, the coronavirus doesn't adhere to dates. I think dates are arbitrary, and they're just there to give people a sense of hope, because you can't put a date on this stuff. You just got to say, I don't know what you got to say, but don't rely on dates, people, because the dates are arbitrary. There's no real date that's all going to go away. It's going to continue, and the more we all do what we're doing, help each other, wear the masks, self-distance, social distance, it's going to go away quicker. That's the bottom line. And I'm getting off the soapbox now.
It's really not a soapbox. It's a way we should live. I mean, we all have big boy and big girl pants. Even my kids are 10 and my son's 13, and they understand this. And so I think of the positive thing, like children going forward with social distancing and online school. Maybe they'll be more responsible and more aware than we were when we were kids, going crazy all over the place. And I don't mean that in a negative sense, but like, we need more results. We need the results from China. We need the people to task force to drop a B-19 in there and get all the results and come out of there and figure out how to beat this thing. I don't know you guys back home, but I have friends in Texas that that the laboratories are working on the vaccines and all that. But in the meantime, if you're not doing what you're told, nothing's going to get better.
Nothing's going to get better, and this is going to go on and on and on. So please do the right thing.
Yeah, and buy more toys. No, I'm sorry.
Hey, they could buy more toys too. And you know what we'll do right now is take this opportunity to take a brief intermission, a 6.5 minute intermission to be specific. So this is going to let our guests top off their beverages and take care of any 6.5 minute things they might need to take care of.
That's how I was born. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. Yeah, man. So I just want to say the first thing we're going to start things off with here is a tribute to Ultra Q with the music provided by Cosmic Monster. And then we'll be back in 6.5 minutes, kids.
Godzilla versus the Thing. Godzilla, monster of monsters, and the mysterious Thing defy man's mightiest weapons. See Godzilla versus the Thing in color and Terrascope.
ゴジラ怪獣軍団、君たちと共に熱く戦う。連続技で特殊パワーを発揮しろ。最大4人でいろいろなゲームが楽しめる。バトルポイントを貯めると映画のメイキング写真や特典画像がゲットできる。ゴジラ怪獣大乱闘地球最終決戦。
Yeah.
Cut. What's up? We are back with the live episode, the Kaijucast non-emergency broadcast.
And
that was an awesome little a little ditty by the Blue Oyster Cult. And I think I'd just like to say out loud, especially if anybody watches this long enough to realize that I borrowed their video and they're getting angry about it. I'm just a huge fan. I thought it was super cool that they joined together doing the social distancing things from their own studios and own homes and created this live version inside of homes. It was just really a total treat to see when it happened live. So
yeah, I just want to mention
Blue Oyster Cult.
Thank you.
I just want to mention that because I had seen their Blue Oyster Cult is actually my favorite band, and my brother and I have seen them 20 plus times live.
Wow.
wow.
And I just saw them. They came back to Portland for the first time in like over a decade at the Roseland here, right before all this happened. And I know those guys, it's a New York band, and I know they're there and they're obviously older. And when that popped up that they did that, because I knew they're recording a new record right now. But it was just kind of like, music is so important to me, and like I just hadn't seen any status updates from them. And then when that was what they did, they put out that little socially distanced Godzilla video. It was such a treat. It was so cool. And then I saw, of course, everybody picking it up and sharing it because of the Godzilla stuff. It was great.
As a musician, not only can you appreciate this, but you can understand how this has brought some people, together. I was commenting there in the feed there last year, and Kyle, I don't think you were there, but Matt Frank was there. There was a Sakyo Komatsu music festival that Higuchi-san put together. The director of Japan Sinks and Sayonara Jupiter, and he did TV shows, and he was also director. And the music was incredible. They just released a CD. You've probably seen a post about it on Monster Tag Team, but I was lucky to team up with one of the musicians from there, and he was having the hardest time getting finger snaps, a nice recording of finger snaps. And so he's a professional musician, has an organ, and loves all these bands. And so I said I could help. And so then I recorded finger snaps, and I thought it was easy. I liked to snap. When I was a kid, I could snap very well and all that. But man, doing it for a long time and recording it was hard. But he's going to affect it, and he's going to use it, and he's going to add timpanis and keyboard and stuff. So even though he can't go play live right now, he's recording, and we became friends through this whole COVID thing. And if they ever put a video out, it was amazing. I cannot applaud director Shinji Higuchi's efforts in resurrecting things that nobody, had the idea to do. Because here we're talking about a movie called Japan Sinks, which is one of the best special effects movies ever made, in my opinion, from Japan. And they do a live concert. And they bring out the original piano that was in Toho's back vaults that had been used at the studios and cleaned it up. And they brought out the timpanis that were used in, recording, soundtracks. And they're playing live. And they bring out the singers. And, director Takano was there too. And Nakano came out and said, start. And then they showed that. And then Higuchi-san had all of his stuff laid out. We could see his, manga and his model kits and stuff like that. And he's such an interesting person, but he's also a fan, And so, like, when people don't lose sight of that, it's so nice. And music. And thank you for sharing that. It was like I came back from the break and I was jamming out to Blue Oyster Cult. I never got to see them live, but my dream was always to see one of the original shows when Kiss opened up for them, and then Oyster Cult opened up for Kiss.
Nice. Clancy, have you seen that that lineup? Or are you a little too young?
Yeah, no, I've seen most of the original guys, but the Bouchard brothers, I didn't get to see that lineup. That was after my time, so not the full experience. But
Have you seen the video with the Godzilla behind them with the smoke and the fire? Like,
oh yeah, yeah. For that tour, for that record, yeah, they had a huge giant head.
If you like Godzilla and you like music and you like hard rock or any kind of music, there's still opportunity if you come to Japan at the right time. There's a band called Sekimatsu with Demon Kogore, and they're the only band that gets away with it, but they start their concerts with strains of Ikukube, either from Makura or Ghidra. So like before the show starts, you hear the rumbling, and then you hear the music, and then you start hearing Ghidra sound effects, and you're like, then people kind of rise up because you can't sit down at their shows. And as the first drum hit goes on the concert, right before it, you'll hear and you'll hear Godzilla in huge sound in an arena, in a concert hall, his scream echoing through the chambers of the concert hall, and then the band starts. So if you ever get a chance to do that, then I highly recommend it. They're coming back this year. I do not know if they are going to be able to do the tour or not because of COVID. But I got a note from the guitarist, and it's on. And if you want to come to Japan later this year, if it's available, I highly recommend seeing it. They even got a song called "Kill the King Ghidra." They play live, and the singer does his hands like Ghidra and moves around, and then stands on his head. It's crazy. It's a lot of fun.
For people that are a little more casual fans than Ed and I are of these movies, Demon Kogore actually made an appearance in Godzilla vs. Biollante. He's the guy that sort of looks like he's a villain about to tell you what his demands are, and then it turns out that he's getting interrupted by a news story, and he says, "Oh, sorry, we'll be right back." That's I actually saw him on TV when I was there in November, Ed.
Yeah, he's on a lot of commercials, so he's still doing stuff. I interviewed them years ago, and I gave him a copy of our magazine. And as I gave it to him, he started singing the Monster Attack Team, like under his breath, and like the rest of the band was like, "I was like, man, you really know your stuff." I mean, like he got Osamu Tezuka's son to direct their video. I mean, like he That's is cool. Into it, and he's also a fan.
Huge kaiju fan. There's my pivot point. There's my segue. Kaiju fans. Let's talk about kaiju fans and how this is affecting us as kaiju fans, this COVID-19. Specifically, not just kaiju fans, this has affected many events happening, as Ed just mentioned. Blue Oyster Cult, was it Blue Oyster Cult? Somebody might come back and tour in Japan, but they might not. Iron Maiden, yeah, because they can't, because their events are being canceled right now. Events are being canceled across the world. All sorts of things are being canceled. All sorts of things are going to be canceled for a long time. And the main reason we even really wanted to get together was because a lot of people, kaiju fans specifically, have been very concerned about whether or not our annual kaiju convention, G-Fest, is going to be canceled or if it's going to go on as planned. I'll just go ahead and start off by saying that just to give the briefest and not negative history here, there were some tweets from the G-Fest G-Fan account that were kind of like, I just say they were very tone deaf, and they did not take people's feelings and thoughts and stuff into consideration. Basically was sort of saying, oh yeah, this is going to be over by summertime, long gone. And clearly, like, that's not the case. Clearly, we've had some issues where there have been other tweets. I don't even need to get into them, but basically there have been some tone deaf tweets coming from the G-Fest people. And I had offered to let some of them or one of them come on to the show and actually talk about what they're thinking G-Fest is going to, how it's going to deal with this stuff this year, because I know they are talking about it. I know that this is a point of conversation. The entire convention is not just saying, yeah, we're all good, we're totally going to have this convention on in July. They're concerned about it for sure. But there are things in place, and we're going to talk about some of these things as we continue. But just out of curiosity, off the top of the dome, going around our little chasing lights here, Clancy, what are your thoughts right now in terms of like G-Fest happening? Would you go if it was happening?
If it was happening, it's not in the cards for me this year. It's one of those things. Well, I'll just, instead of tiptoeing around it, I'll just flat out say it. Basically, 2 weeks ago, and I kind of knew this was going to happen. I was working on a major project at my work that I've worked at for 9 years, and I had a feeling that once I finished work on that project, I was going to be laid off, and that's exactly what happened. So it is what it is, and it's actually, in the long run, it's going to be better for me because I wasn't happy with that job, and it is going to be a new adventure. You know, the stresses that exist with that are there, but basically, everybody's obviously in a different situation right now. We're all dealing with COVID, but everyone's situation is different. So the decision was made for me because I don't want to spend money at the moment. Mm-hmm. But even if I was able to spend that money, I just wasn't comfortable with the idea of going to something when we're still in the thick of it, and information, you know, solid information, because right now we're living in this 24-hour news cycle where they just report on everything that gets said, and it's kind of murky. So I think the smart thing to do is to just wait until the data pours in, people look at what is going on, and actually we start getting some real answers. I already had Crypticon Seattle was a convention that Jeff, who's on the Kaijucast, and our friend Willie attend every year, and we do panels at that convention and work behind the scenes, run our trivia there. They already closed it down. I mean, it would have happened, so it isn't as far out as G-Fest, but I was glad that that decision was made for us. I mean, the convention didn't happen, so we didn't even have to think about it. Mm-hmm. But on the other side, I do understand that there's people that work with these organizations that are, you know, getting hit hard too. I think really that's I kind of sit back. I don't really spend a lot of time talking about it online, like getting into arguments about who's right, who's wrong, because the reality is I don't know their story. Like, I don't know at all what G-Fest, or as I mentioned, Crypticon, I don't know what they're dealing with, either financially, legally, you know, deals with hotels and guests, and, you know, I have none of that information. I'm just somebody that's going to attend these events. But anyway, before I ramble on too late, really, for me, my stance is I'm currently staying home because I think it is the right thing to do. I'm not even going to visit my parents. So as much as I love all of the people that are on this chat, are at these conventions, I consider all of them friends, and I miss them. I miss all of you guys. But yeah, my sacrifice is it's just not going to happen, even if I could do it this year.
It's understandable. It's understandable.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. No, Clancy loves everybody, especially at G-Fest. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Gretchen, how about you? I know that technically speaking, you weren't really looking at going back to G-Fest this year, but just with everything that's going on, what are your thoughts on that whole, how G-Fest is potentially going to keep going or maybe not going, and like what does that mean to you as someone who might go back next year?
Well, I think this is a great opportunity to examine how easy to have online culture it is. Like, we could easily do many of these like panels, and I mean, you and I even talked about this. Like, I mean, Kaijucast could easily do a digital panel for G-Fest online. It'd be really cool to see a successful convention held online, I mean, I understand that you won't be able to do like the, artist alley, but I feel like if we set up maybe like how Emerald City Comic Con did, they set up a virtual artist alley, and that was, I don't know how successful that was, but I hope that was really did well for those people who lost quite a bit of money not being able to be at the convention itself.
Yeah.
I mean, we're looking at that with Portland Horror Film Festival, is like looking at those avenues too, is like, can we sustain this online? And I think like Plenty, you were saying, like, I'm also choosing like not to go places or like go out except for like to work home, maybe to have food brought in to support the local businesses.
And then, Ed, you've been to G-Fest several times. What are your thoughts on this whole thing, and like how, if assuming you're in the same boat as everybody else, you're probably not going to be traveling anytime within the next several months.
No, I'm not, and I wish I could. But first of all, I want to say, Clancy, sorry about your job, and I hope that gets better for you. And Gretchen, thank you. That's great ideas. You and I, Kyle, were kind of involved in doing something at this year's G-Fest, and then because I'm working and because I don't have a lot of leave time saved up, and there were some medical issues, I wasn't able to go, so I canceled my plans early. But I feel for those people who go every year, and this year was going to be special for me because I was going to share stuff with the fans there that you will not see ever again probably. And I hope that everybody pulls through, and I hope that the contracts that we're speaking of don't cause a strike or cause some kind of issue with next year's G-Fest, because contracts are kind of hard to break. Speaking as a former paralegal, and they don't really care about COVID or whatever. It's the bottom dollar, and it's unfortunate. But institutions like San Diego Comic-Con, which I've been a guest at many years, they can weather the storm. People will come; they'll make their money. G-Fest, I'm not so sure about, and without saying too much, I was going to show some footage and stuff that I had taken and pictures. A couple years ago, I was actually on the set of a Godzilla movie, the one that's plays up in Fukushima at the Tsuburaya Eiji Museum, and I wanted to show a couple of those photos and stuff like that. And I can't show that online, Gretchen. I mean, I'm friends with people at Toho. I know the directors and those guys, but man, if I put that online, they're going to be like knocking on my door with the
right,
the aliens from the black hole, So I have to, be cognizant of the fact that who knows what will happen with conventions. Conventions have changed over the years. The first convention I went to as a kid was, I think, 76 or 77. And I remember kids were running around in Logan's Run outfits, with their handmade blasters and saying, "Hold it, runner!" And people from Star Trek World and stuff were there. Those are the old days. The new days, who knows what we'll have, But the Godzilla Fest that you guys went to last year and we met at, that was
in November in Tokyo.
That was fantastic, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So it's a one-day built-in convention with no entry fee. I love it, and you get to see all this crazy stuff. And TJ Storm came out, and TJ Storm was there with Jessica Sang, who helped him. And I had the pleasure of bringing TJ Storm into the world of Godzilla Millennium, and then they got on stage together. I want to see that stuff again, and I want people to come from America and be able to come and see that. Of course, it's expensive, but to see that kind of stuff and to see the props, and none of that stuff has been released, but like just to see the Gojiban puppet theater and old Grandpa Hedra and baby Hedra together. Yeah, that's kind of the spirit of the old conventions, but also done in a different scale. I hope the best for the people, G-Fest and G-Fan. And I've seen a lot of the negative comments, and that's okay. But those people aren't doing conventions anyway. They're still putting the magazine out. It's 2020, and we have a new way of going forward. And I hope that we can figure it out together. And I hope that people can be a little bit kinder, because it's the time to be kinder.
Yeah. So just as a quick aside, because we're sort of talking about this, we've had a couple people mention it so far. This is an article that was written for the Mary Sue called "Why Cons Are Waiting for a Legal Act of God Before Canceling," and I was actually asked to read this article because when I asked Jeff Horn to come on from G-Fest, he said, "Look, I can't actually come on to the show and speak with any particular authority with this because decisions have not actually been made." He could have come on and just been sort of like a sounding board, but no official word could have come down from them. They basically, G-Fest has a meeting where all of the organizers get together, and their next meeting, I think, is like on the 12th or something. Hopefully something will come out of that meeting, and Jeff said that if something does come out of it, he's happy to come and do another one of these with me and spread some more information about this. But essentially, what I wanted to do is take his request of me reading this article and read it and then sort of talk about it a little bit. Ed mentioned the cancellations and agreements and contracts that are in place with these kinds of things. And that's sort of what we're getting at here, is that we don't know the contract between G-Fest and the Crown Plaza Hotel, but a lot of times these contracts include something called a force majeure, or a clause that means an act of God is the only thing that can stop this convention from happening, that makes it okay to cancel the convention. So if there's not a valid reason for the convention to get, like a valid reason for the, hang on, that's my dog again.
That's your valid reason.
Fuck you, man.
He's got a valid reason.
All right, sit. I swear to God, I have a dog, ladies and gentlemen.
I love puppies.
Anyway, somebody's at my door. They don't realize I'm doing a live show.
It's
so,
DHL.
No, I already got my package. Okay. Back to the force majeure, back to the act of God. Basically, what this says is that if the government or the mayor, or somebody in power in Chicago says no gatherings over 25 people, and that includes, from this date to this date, if G-Fest is in between those dates, then that tells G-Fest they can actually cancel the convention without serious penalties. And in this article, which I will link to in the show notes later, this article actually does have a couple of examples in the comments of the article where people are talking about the penalty fines that they would have to pay if they canceled their convention or their event with this venue without that act of God. And so what we don't want to happen is what Ed is alluding to. If G-Fest cancels the convention and then they're forced to pay this fine, that might actually completely kill the convention entirely. Not anybody.
Or you have to renew the contract, and it's not on your terms.
And what I say about when I mean that, like, it would kill the convention entirely, is like they probably don't have that kind of money to put up that penalty fee if they cancel the convention right now before the act of God, Zilla. But the whole thing with this Mary Sue article is it's saying that that's why you're seeing conventions wait until what seems like way too late in our opinions to make the cancellation announcements.
For concerts and things like that, it depends on the location. Like, you're there in the United States, but like for the Iron Maiden concert, which just got canceled, it wasn't the band that canceled it. It was the promoter and the series of venues associated with the tour. So before the band made the official announcement the tour was canceled, it was already canceled for them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and something tells me that's what you're going to see for concert-wise specifically. You're probably going to see that in almost any case, because they're going to get, if they make the decision, they're going to get completely legally screwed by the promoters. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. Everybody's in a messed up situation right now. But the bands,
liability nightmare.
Yeah, the bands cannot afford to just go, we're not showing up, and then have to, because they are going to have consequences because of that for sure. So yeah.
And
the other thing that I do want to say is it's like I don't want to in this situation. I don't want to pretend like there aren't people that aren't like those tweets that went out weren't necessarily, in the spirit of what we're trying to defend here. There was some negativity behind what was being said, but the one thing I like to think about in that is that, well, the person that's typing that stuff out isn't the only person associated with G-Fest, or I mean, just think about the people that are in your life. Like when I was working, it was like I had plenty of people in that situation that were not on the same page with what's going on here, and would have gladly just kept us open and said, screw all this stuff that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So there could be a lot of good people behind the scenes, and you're always going to have one or two. You're going to have people. Anyway, I think people know what I'm talking about and trying to say.
Just clarify a little bit for you, Clancy, if you don't mind. What we're kind of talking about is that the people who we generally are involved with when it comes to G-Fest, because I've been going to G-Fest for a long time, and actually super fast. I've been going to G-Fest for maybe like 10 G-Fests, something like that, 6 or 7 G-Fests, somewhere around there. Clancy has been to a few. Gretchen went to one. Ed's been to several. David's been to many. Robert, Dwyer, I didn't actually get a chance to ask you this earlier. How many G-Fests have you been to?
I've been to all of them.
Every single G-Fest, which is the other reason I wanted him here. So we've all been to G-Fest. We all, on some level, know that most of the people that are involved with G-Fest are people like Jeff Horn, Martin Arlt, David Nunez, Stan Hyde, and I'm going to stop there because I don't want to leave anybody out, because I'm sure I'm going to leave people out. Basically, the person who runs the Twitter account is not one of those guys. That's all I'm going to say. And that's all we really need to talk about. I mean, it's disappointing that like I said, tone deaf messages were sent out like that. David, I didn't get a chance to ask you how you were sort of feeling about this whole G-Fest, COVID, cancellation versus not cancellation, going versus not going, etc. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I'm going to agree with what everyone has said so far. It all makes perfect sense. But bottom line, we are all responsible for ourselves. Whether it goes on or doesn't go on, it's our own decision whether we want to take the chance to go and get on a plane, which I certainly don't just now, and make that long trip to go. Now, personally, I have a history of respiratory illnesses, and I think it would just be really silly for me to take that chance, even though the chance might be big or small by July, but I still think it's going to be a big chance. And ultimately, it's my own decision, so I can't really say, what's right for you or for the next person. But what I will say is, I wouldn't go whether it was going on or not, because I just think that we just need to all step back, get healthy, concentrate on 2021, make it the best one ever. And if we can pull together some kind of a virtual G-Fest, that would be awesome too. So if we could do those two things. And I absolutely understand the red tape that's involved with canceling a convention. But for God's sake, isn't what's happening now considered an act of God? Isn't
not until the governors or the people in charge of that city say that.
Yeah. I mean, whether they say it or not, it is an act of God. This is something that is bad, it's dangerous, and it shouldn't go on, in my opinion. And I just want also to put out there that, I've voiced my opinion to several people in the community, and most people agree with what I had to say, what we all had to say. But I just wanted to put out there that I really want to go. Like, I don't not want to go. Totally. I love G-Fest. I've been going since 2014, and I've met every single one of you guys there, aside from Kyle, who I met in Seattle. I met all of you guys there, and it's just a really special time. It's Christmas in July, man. I mean, we love G-Fest. We just love all aspects of it. Maybe not all aspects of it. The hotel, you know, I won't go into that. But I just want to put out there, even though I don't think it's the right idea to go, and it's definitely not the right idea for me to go, I absolutely want to go. My fondest wishes for this thing to be over with, you know, ASAP, so we can all do it. I mean, I would love to see Ed's presentation. I mean, that just totally piques my interest. And I know that Kyle and the co-hosts from Collect All Monsters had some fun things planned for G-Fest this year. And it's just totally bums me out, but it's not the right thing for me, and I don't think it's the right thing for many people to venture out to it this particular year. There will be other years. It's going to happen again. And like I said, I understand the red tape, and I understand all of the financial consequences, which sucks. I think it's terrible. I think they should be able to cancel now and not suffer any consequences. But be that as it may, I'm hoping that the right thing will happen and that we will all be safe and be able to see each other in 2021. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
Robert, what are your thoughts, man?
Well, of course, I'm a lot closer to the convention because I live in Michigan. So, of course, I don't have the issue with flight. That said, now, mind you, I've been to every convention. I haven't canceled my plans yet. I'm really waiting for the convention to actually say something. So I'm kind of on the fence because I don't need toys. I can get toys anywhere, be honest.
Yeah, I don't need me either.
You know what I mean? So, you know, I'm not going to go for that. I mean, the panels are great, but yeah, you could do all those panels online easily. The only thing that really gets me is I like to see the guests, but are they going to be able to get the guests there with the flight bans?
Right.
That's a big question.
You know, there's too much, and mind you, I really hate vagueness and cryptic stuff, and it's very, very annoying for me. It's like, you know, just say we're waiting for this. We'll let you know. That's all you got to say. And of course, we're not getting that. So of course, that's, you know, why you got everyone slinging stuff left and right, is because there's not any solid answers. I'll be honest, it's 50-50 for me right now. I mean, I'm not sick, but that said, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. So I'm not sure I want to risk it. You know, there'd have to be a really good reason for me to go, which for me is normally to see all the people I already know and to see the guests. So I don't know. Again, it's 50-50 for me right now. I'm really waiting to hear more. Because I don't know. I think the convention will probably be canceled. In which case, you know, they'll have made the decision for me. I mean, unlike a lot of people, I don't have to pay up front a lot, so I'm not out any money. You know, I can change my mind at the last minute, really, except for the hotel, you know. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I don't know if I'm going to go. It's hard to say. I'm not going to say I'm 100% not going. I don't know. But if the guests don't show up, I'm probably not going to go. It's just
because that's the biggest draw for you, aside from your friends in this chat.
Yeah. And you know, and because I'm really big into the movies and the people who are in them. Of course, I love to see the actors and so on and so forth. People especially ones I've not met. Which I believe the guest this year was supposed to be Hiroyuki Kawase, I think his name is, from Godzilla's Revenge. But again. Is he going to even be able to get out of Japan to show up? You know, we don't know. I mean, that's what I mean. It's like
I don't think Japan knows either.
Yeah. So it's hard to say.
Yeah, you know, it's hard to say is true. I mean, basically, what we're speculating about this.
Yeah, I don't really have an answer. For me, it's probably 50-50. To be honest, I don't really like to drive, and the drive is a 4.5 hour drive. So if there's not a whole lot there for me, I might save myself 9.5 hours of driving. It's usually worse going back. I don't know. It would suck because it'd be the first one I haven't gone to, but of course, on the other hand, there wasn't any serious illness going around at any of those other conventions. So. As a student of history, I remember, reading about the pandemic of 1918. I'm not sure I want to suffer anything like it. Again, I'm not a spring chicken. I'm doing, it could, especially with me being out of work. I do not currently have health insurance. I really don't want to get sick. And mind you, I'm pretty healthy. I don't have any underlying medical issues, but I'm also in my 50s, so.
See, there's so many unknowns. There's so many unknowns about this. That's the thing, Robert. You are healthy, but healthy people get really sick.
Oh, sure.
Okay. And think about all of the things that need to be put in place for this convention to go on. And I'm thinking about the liability issues, right? If someone or a group, what if a group of people gets sick, including like the Japanese guests, for God's sake, right? God forbid, I should say. And are we going to have to like sanitize the microphones? We're going to have to check people's temperatures before they go into the dealer's room.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
what we're doing here.
Think about that and those aspects, and you outweigh, is that worth it? Do you want to be a part of that? I certainly don't, and I don't think a lot of people do. It's not worth it for toys. It's not worth it for guests who may not be there. We can all see each other online. It's just I just want all of us to be alive and healthy for the next G Fest when it happens in 2021.
If Medical Jet Jaguar's there, I'm going.
Well, if Medical Jet Jaguar's there, we're all safe because he's got the cure. Right? But I can just get pretty emotional about it because there's so many variables and unknowns to take the chance for something that we can wait a year to go to, and I'm hoping that the money will get back to the people who shelled out the money for the convention, and the convention does not die. I hope that happens, and I really hope everyone's decision is made, because everyone may not make the right decision for them. And I want to just step out there and say, I think everybody needs to be safe and smart and healthy.
Well, regarding the convention, they were mentioning earlier about the cost. I had mentioned this to someone else online when asked about it. I believe a lot of conventions, especially the smaller ones, a lot of times they're paying for future conventions with the current convention. Like a lot of that money gets pushed forward. That may be another reason why they're kind of on the fence to, cancel, because it could put future cons at risk.
Well,
I don't know all the details because, of course, they've traditionally been cryptic about the inner workings of the con. But if it's like other cons in the same manner, I'm not saying that's correct or not. I'm just saying that could be their line of thinking.
That's perfect. That's a perfect thought, because usually dealers' rooms, they purchase the tables at that convention for the next convention,
right?
Which is a lot of money going forward too.
Well, Clancy alluded to it. Nobody knows. We don't know. We don't know what's going on. So the unknown is frightening and scary. And as long as people get their money back and can push it forward to the next one, I think that's going to be the most important thing moving forward. Kyle, how about you? You haven't yet really expanded on what your take is.
That's true. Okay, so here's my. Here, let me just give myself full screen so I can look deep into your eyes, audience.
I'm right there with you.
But seriously, the thing I wanted to do, I wanted to actually give my thoughts on this. The whole reason I even asked for you guys to be on this show is because one morning this past week, 3 or 4 people messaged me and were asking me if I was going to be going to G-Fest. Now, I generally get people messaging me. That's not odd, but just for have 3 people concentrated in the period of a morning asking me about this convention. But the deal is that you and I talked about it before, David, and now that I have even more information on how this virus spreads, in fact, let me talk about that for a second.
Please, yeah.
If you have the virus, the way this virus spreads is by micro droplets of water coming out of your mouth. That's why people are telling you to wear a mask. Gretchen's back. When you're wearing a mask, if you have contracted the virus,
not sure what happened.
That mask stops those droplets from extending past your face. Okay. And what that does is that keeps your fellow humans from getting the sickness from you. Now, I don't feel sick. I bet none of us in this chat feel sick, you know? But if you have the virus, you could definitely have it for 2 weeks and not show any symptoms at all. And that's what my concern is. I'm generally really healthy. Like, I rarely get sick. I rarely have to miss work. And the idea of me getting sick is, I don't think it's going to happen. In all honesty, I don't really think that I'm going to get the coronavirus. But I have a feeling that if I got the coronavirus, I would be one of those people that doesn't get sick, doesn't show symptoms. And for that 2-week period, if I'm not careful, I could be transmitting that virus to other people. Now, having said that out loud, imagine that's one person. Then you have so many people coming into G-Fest. That space, as we experienced last year and the year before that and the year before that, is like a cesspool of germs and hot, muggy air. And it's like, do you blame the people? Do you blame the indoor pool? Do you blame the air circulation? But it doesn't matter who you blame, because it all is a factor in this decision. The amount of airflow that goes through that convention on a regular convention show, during a regular convention show for G-Fest, I mean, does not make me feel safe with the air being passed around. And like, even if everybody's wearing a mask.
Well, and we already know it's con crud was a joke. Like, everybody always talks about how they get sick when they go to conventions. And the reality is, I got sick when I went to Japan a few months ago. And I don't know if I caught it from someone on the trip or I brought it with and infected people there. But yeah, we all kind of laughed about the fact that it's like we go into these big areas. We know that going to these conventions is something that passes around disease and sickness.
We don't know about the medical professionals either. We don't know if their assessment is correct. I was told I just had a cold. I went back. I was told I had pneumonia. And then the pneumonia became bronchitis. And then it dissipated. And that's after 5 visits. So, like, maybe somebody is fine. Maybe they come, but maybe the advice they got from the medical professional wasn't conclusive enough.
So many unknowns, you guys. So many unknowns. And people, like, are out of work now. And maybe they don't have health insurance anymore. So if they're going to decide to go to this convention and get sick, I just don't want that to happen either. I don't want that to happen to anybody, because that's the reality of it. And I mean, think about it, guys. That dealer's room, it is virtually impossible to social distance.
It completely.
You can't social distance anywhere in the hotel.
I mean, you just can't. That's not what it's about. And I just think that I'm just thinking of, even if it goes on, what they're going to have to do to. I can't wrap my mind around it.
I think it could work. I think it could work, but it won't work at the M1 Go table. That's for sure.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So to just sort of wrap up, is like, I don't feel comfortable being part of a convention where I could get other people sick. Other people could get me sick. And like, literally what it really boils down to is I'm not even going to feel comfortable getting on a freaking plane until there's a vaccine, a cure, a vaccine, something. If there's a vaccine, though, I will feel comfortable taking a vaccine and flying somewhere and not getting the virus, and that's, I mean, none of these things are going to happen very soon.
I agree.
I agree. It just sucks.
And along with the vaccine, Kyle, every American or every person needs to be tested. That's what's going to do it too. We need a test for every single person, whether they're sick or not, so we can sort of gauge what's going on in the country, whether you have the antibody test, whether you've had it or not. You know, that's another thing that would make me feel better if I already did have it. Ed, maybe you did have a mild version. They don't know. I'm not going to say you didn't have it. I thought,
and
maybe
that's what the doctor said too. The doctor said exactly that.
There's so many unknowns about this thing, and as Clancy said, it's a 24-hour news cycle. Like one thing, you know, at 6 a.m. and then at 6 p.m. there's a different take on it.
Yeah,
and you know, it's just really very confusing, and I think we all need to err on the side of being smart and
cautious.
Just hunkering down for 1 year. We can do it, people. We all want to go. We all love each other. We want to see this. We want to buy toys. We want to drink on the patio. We want to do all that stuff, but we want to do it with everybody. We don't want people to be missing in 2021. And I'm going to keep saying that.
Yeah. So that's my take on this is like, even if G-Fest happens, don't feel comfortable going. And it's not because of the convention. I just don't feel comfortable because of the entire pandemic, you know? And to be perfectly honest, I would, if you are looking at the convention and saying, man, I hope they're going to not cancel this convention. I hope they're going to keep it going. I think you should pay attention to what this virus is actually doing and do some research on how it spreads. Do some research on what actually needs to take place in order for us to get past the virus. That's the kind of thing that we're going to have a lot of trouble doing here in this country because we have so many conflicting voices saying, oh, it's this. Oh, it's this. The thing David was saying earlier when he and I think John Ruffin were talking about this whole thing months ago now, I remember saying, like, it's too early. We just don't know enough. I still feel like, even though we know a lot more today, we still don't know enough. And I think that's going to keep changing. We're going to still keep getting information. It's just our jobs to try and stay on top of this thing. One, keep yourself healthy, keep your family healthy. Two, try and keep the people that you come in contact with. If you have to come in contact with anybody, keep them safe and healthy by wearing a mask. Don't go out if you're sick. Pay attention to the CDC requirements and recommendations, please, for the love of Godzilla.
Amen, brother.
Amen. All right. So I think does anybody else have anything else they want to say on this, or have we beat the subject to death here?
Kaiju defeat COVID.
Kaiju defeat COVID. Let's once again remind everybody here. Kaiju defeat COVID is the hashtag. There's also the Japanese hashtag for Monster Capsule. Please go on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Check out that hashtag. See what other people are doing. Join in the fun, and also upload your own as well. I can't wait to see you guys is done. Ed, when are we going to see yours?
I probably will either do it today or tomorrow, and I still haven't figured it out because I have a lot of different ideas, but kind of want to just add this to the project, and I appreciate your contribution and others. Check the Monster Attack Team Facebook page; it'll be there, and then ultimately we'll see the whole project when it's done. And thank you, Higuchi-san, for doing this.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to lie; I've been thinking about this the whole time, to be honest.
That's awesome. I can't wait to see it, dude.
And real quick, Kyle. I got an email from Chris Oglio. He wanted to tell the viewers that if anybody is jonesing for some cool kaiju toys, Seismic Toy Store, seismictoys.com has some cool new stuff for you guys to check out. Ships from the U.S.
There you go. There you go.
Just wanted to put that out there in case someone wants a toy. Look for some cool stuff.
Okay, so I am going to bring it down just a little bit. This past week, as some Kaiju fans know, we lost a Kaiju fan named CHRIS MARTINEZ in his long battle with cancer. This is Chris. He created the comic book Night of the Fire Beast and Fire Beast Duragon versus Garen, the Horror from Space. Chris was a super, super great dude. He also was the guitarist in the Alder Kings. And if you are unfamiliar with this, the Alder Kings are the band that play the intro song for Hail to the King, 60 Years of Destruction. Yeah, so we're going to close out this show by saying thank you to all my co-hosts here. Thank you so much to all the people watching live, all the people chatting. Sorry I wasn't able to dive into that chat room and pull out some gems during this. I didn't have my homie Leslie here to monitor the chat room for me. But what we are going to do is we're going to sign off right now, and we are going to close the show out with one song, and this is the Tokyo Stomp from the Alder Kings. And until then, until we meet next time, I guess I should say, because when are we going to meet next time? Who knows? Maybe we'll do this again in the future. But until then, everybody, Jamata. Wait. Did I share that audio? Because I suck at that sometimes. And I don't hear anything there. That's why. Yeah, see, I'll do it right this time. Share the screen. I can never have a perfect show, you guys. You know that. All right. Enjoy the Alder Kings, Jamata.